and say that that's not what we're talking about. So this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this channel as well, to kind of bring a level of education to as many people that, listen to these things about what we mean when we're talking about organizational coaching. And I know it's a broad question. We've touched on this earlier on as well, and it's kind of like, it's so big you really can't get a grasp on it sometimes. But how do you explain it to people when you're talking about it?
Okay, let me see if I can do the simple version that won't put your audience to sleep. We know that organizations thrive when they are learning organizations. So if they stay static, they fail. So what our traditional model of leadership, of learning in organizations, it comes from our mainstream teaching, is the idea that the person at the front of the room, be that a leader or a teacher or a mentor, has information based on experience or based on training, and that their job is to impart that information. So that's incredibly useful if you are starting out in something. If you think about learning to drive, you need someone to tell you what the things do and how the gears work and how that only gets you to a certain point. So it gets you to the point where you can maybe pass the driving test, is kind of understanding the nuts and bolts, and you need someone in there teaching you. Learning how to be a driver out on the road requires you to think for yourself, make decisions, think about what your values are. There's a whole bunch of other stuff that goes into it, and that's where coaching comes in. So we don't say it's a replacement for mentoring or teaching or training or giving advice, but that it's an addition that most of the leaders that we speak to when we're working in organizations are exhausted with the amount of work that they're doing at levels below themselves. They're having to do the job of the next layer and even the next layer down. They're giving advice. People are coming to them repeatedly with the same questions. What do you think I should do? We've got this problem. What's the answer? So they're worn out and frustrated with the lack of initiative and confidence that their people have in solving their own problems. Mm-hmm. And there's an innovation problem in organizations where they know the same thing isn't going to keep working, but they don't know how to unlock what's the next thing. Telling people what to do gets in the way of all of that. If instead of doing that, you ask someone who is trained, there needs to be a level of competence. We're not saying, put the 10-year-old in the car and ask them what they should do. That's not the.
I mean, it might be quite interesting, but it's not going to be.
I've lived on farms, and that's how some kids learn how to drive. Right, in a paddock where there's no danger, maybe. What organizations do, though, is they spend an enormous amount of time, money, and effort hiring smart people, finding smart people, sourcing them, putting them in roles, and then telling them what to do instead of asking them, what do you think we should do? What would be a solution you could come up with? One of our favorite questions in the level 1, the basic one, is like, what's the most courageous thing you could do?
Yeah.
And trusting that the smart, capable person that's been hired can come up with their own answers, can manage the mistakes of applying their own answers if they don't work. Also, that they might know more than you do. Or have better ideas than you about what's next.
You're going to bruise a lot of egos with that one, Charity.
Well, there is some. I think part of the unlearning of becoming a coach is letting go of the idea of you're right. The thing that balances that out for me is that it's so ingrained in me to be very cautious before giving advice that I'm now worried if I do give advice. I'm like, oh my goodness, what if that person takes it? What if they do what I say and I'm now responsible? I've already told you I've been massively wrong twice, at least. I don't.
We've covered that in the last 20 minutes. There's got to be more than that.
there's another one I'll tell you in a minute. But I don't want to be responsible for other people's career choices, their decisions at work. I trust the people that work for me. I trust the people that I coach. And so where this is different, I think where I enjoy it more than the therapy that I was doing is that you've got smart, resourced, capable people in front of you who might get stuck or find systems frustrating or find certain people or being able to influence outcomes frustrating, but they actually know how to do it if we just stop telling them what's been done before. Yeah. So every bit of advice we give people is based on past experience. You know, here's what worked in the past. But when we're trying to create innovation, confidence, competence, what worked in the past isn't, you know, what got us here isn't going to get us there. And so coaching is a beautiful way of adding to the other conversations leaders have. Bring out that potential.
Okay.
I said it was going to be short. It was the opposite of that. So can I give you a very short version?
So we're just going to edit that all out, to be honest.
Right.
I'm just going to cut no, we're not. We're not really.
Short version is that instead of giving people your gold, you ask them questions to extract their own gold. So instead of a push conversation, which advice and training is, this is a pull conversation where you ask people to apply their own gold, which they already have.
See, that was the corporate answer. I prefer your original personal answer. I like that one better.
You can edit the corporate one out.